Hi guys, so I'm down at Dungeness.
Well, hi guys, as I said, I was down at Dungeness and beautiful day but very very windy. Sony rx10 Mark IV with me. I'd say still best all-in-one camera out there for pretty much everything. Unfortunately I've had a voiceover because it was just so windy that you can't really hear me. I actually have got a new microphone coming which will go on top of the camera. Hopefully that will fix a few problems with sound and things like that, so that'd be good once it arrives. Anyway, down Dungeness you've got this old, looks like railway track, and basically it's where the boats would have come up onto the beach when they've been fishing. They'd unload the fish into carts, and they'd wheel the carts along the railway up to the road, and then the fish would be put onto, I mean, possibly a long time ago, horse and cart, or on the back of trucks and stuff, and it would have been taken to market. Fabulous place to go and visit. So if you're ever in Kent, look up Dungeness, and it's a fabulous place to go for landscape photography and even some astrophotography. There's not much light pollution out there at night time. Plenty of little bits of wildlife as well. There's a little snail shell here. It's obviously been eaten, but there's plenty of stuff down on by your feet that you don't even realise is there. Like I say, it's very very windy. As you can hear there, the noise is just ridiculous, so I kind of gave up with trying to record sound. This is one of the old huts. Unfortunately it's been demolished, or it's fallen down in its own steam. This is one of the nets, drying huts. They would have kept the nets hung up inside drying when they were not in use back in the days before obviously nylon and things like that. And it's a shame. I have got photos somewhere I'll have to dig out at some point, so you can see. Old machinery, so there's old winches, things like that, using old technology. So there have been old engines and things like that modified to fit, and to use to pull up the boats onto the beach there. And that's one of the boats there. If I remember rightly, that basically the licenses would have been sold onto another boat when those boats have had enough of life, and basically that's why they just get left to rot and slowly fade away and become an ornament on the beach. As you can see there, it was very windy. That's shot at 100 frames per second and slowed down a little bit, and then I shot it at 240 frames per second. As you can see there, nice and smooth. I'm guessing it's a yellow poppy of some sort. Lots and lots of wildlife around at the moment. Unfortunately it was just windy, so the bees and things like that were not hanging around very long. They would just sort of land on the plant if they could for a bit and then go off onto the next one, so it was quite difficult to get any sort of wildlife shots of things like that. So I stuck with the static stuff like buildings and boats and things like that. So quite a bit of heat haze. There's one bird, I'm not sure what it is, but it's obviously a ground nesting bird because it appeared from nowhere out of the ground when I walked past. Obviously seagulls down by the beach, and this one amazed me how the rx10 even held on to it. That's actually still in focus. I've not cropped this at all, obviously, apart from the 16:9 up top and bottom, but unbelievably how it actually kept hold of it. I basically panned too fast and it stayed on it. Peppa Pig ice cream van rather. Not very busy that day, but he was there. Like I say, some plant shots, like beautiful colours, lots of plants, but honestly, like I say, the wildlife, the bees and the flies and stuff were just getting blown around, so it was difficult to even try and get a close-up shot of bees and things. This is basically that was the 24mm, and that's at 600, so the boat is in the distance in the previous shot. Just shows you the range of the 24 to 600mm. And as you can see there, quite a bit of heat haze in the distance. It's quite a hazy day anyway, but it's always interesting. You've got the two lighthouses there, you've got the nuclear power station, old boats, random plants growing on the actual stones themselves, on the shingle. It's quite amazing how it's slowly taken over nature, and unfortunately obviously graffiti on old buildings and stuff, but this was quite cool. So there's a few things in shot there, like an old winch, one of the buildings there, obviously one of the other lighthouses. And this shot here, that was at I think about 100mm. As you can see, the background's not too blurred out, and this one's a little bit closer, about 200mm, but as you can see the background's still a bit blurred, but that's all I could do. So what I did was I stood back and shot it at 600mm, but I actually posted posted, shot about I think it was 12 shots, and then stitched them together in Photoshop. This house I always quite like. It's got all the telegraph poles, all the power lines, whatever, got crisscrossing all over it. Always adds a bit of interest to the shot, and it's a very kind of American deserted town kind of look, which I really quite like. Massive skies, very flat. An old VW camper cruise past, which added to the shot. I've actually added grain to this to actually make it feel a little bit older. Some slow motion, 240 frames a second. The wind turbines in the distance. And this is where I moved to Drury's Gap, which is back towards Camber Sands, and it's where all the kite surfers go. So beautiful meadow, and in the distance there's an old house. It's all falling down. It's very dangerous. I'd love to go walk over there, but it's quite a way away, and I'm not really sure how you actually get to it. But as you can see there, half of the house on the left hand side is all fallen down, so it's very derelict, but it's still a cool old house, and you can see the wind turbines spinning around there. So yeah, I think it was about 25 degrees Celsius, but probably a 20-mile-an-hour wind constantly. And here we go, so some of the kite surfers and windsurfers at it. And like I say, I've got rid of the sound because it was just so windy. It was just absolutely pointless me trying to talk, and you were just getting blasted by the wind on the microphone. So with the HFR mode, or the high frame rate or slow motion, at 240, 500 or 1000 frames per second, you normally can shoot the whole buffer. I basically go into the settings and change it to end half, which means it's only using half of the buffer, which helps it's basically buffer to the card or save to the card quicker, or twice as quick, to allow you to do more clips more regularly. And also it means obviously you're not going to miss as much, especially if you're shooting things like this. And yeah, it just works so much better. This is where I hope when we get the RX10 Mark V at some point, it's going to be a lot faster at doing things like that. Just the speed of the processor and everything we've got nowadays is, 3 years down the line, it's a lot quicker, a lot more power out there from the processors and things like that. So yeah, looking forward to that camera if it ever arrives. Hopefully it does. We can look forward to a slight upgrade of some sort, but the RX10 Mark IV again, still amazing. Doing stuff like this from the a couple of 100 feet away, it's a 1 kilo camera, hardly getting buffered at all, a little bit, but holding a 1 kilo camera instead of 4 kilos with a big lens and whatever camera you might be using with a big lens on, it's just makes life a lot easier, and especially in windy days like so, and you've got that full range of 24 to 600mm. So really pleased I decided I'll take the all-in-one camera today, just easier, and I don't really know what I'm doing, so I've got no real plans. I'm just going to go for a drive and enjoy the weather and everything, and if there's anything to photograph I can just grab it out and snap away. So some of the photos here, some of the kite surfing jump shots were better in black and white. As you can see, there was a lot of white, because white and dark, but because you can see here the sea is just basically disgusting. It's a kind of muddy greeny brown colour. It's not exactly pretty. It's not a nice blue or turquoise blue at the moment. We do get it sometimes, but in the UK it's quite often sort of greyish and a bit dull looking, so for photos it doesn't always look that nice. So sometimes black and white is the best way to go. These shots here, I'm just shooting AFC f4 and around about 1/2000 to 2500th of a second shutter speed, and just panning and basically just letting the camera follow the subject, and just put your finger down on the shutter button and just do a burst every now and again. I wasn't just holding my finger down all the time. I'm doing short bursts, so maybe 3 to 5 shots every tiny little shot, and that way you get a few to choose from, but you're not literally just blasting and filling your buffer up, which makes life a lot more efficient. Another shot here, ignored the kite and then picked the guy out and while he was jumping. Another kite shot there. I just liked it because it was backlit by the sun, and basically it's amazing when they do this. They go up and they do sometimes do flips and things like that, and they just sort of float down like it's a, you know, just a calm, lovely day, and then suddenly realise it's actually 25-30 mile an hour gusts, and a really windy day. Another black and white shot here, it just worked better, and you can see the whites of the water and everything just look a bit more, you know, just adds movement and a bit more what do you call it, contrast, and I think it just makes it look a bit more interesting. Most people are wearing obviously black wetsuits as well, which makes them stick out away from the water, and your subject sort of jumps out a bit more, even though obviously the colour ones still look okay, but like I said, the sea just looks terrible, so it just, a bit of grey and white looks a bit more interesting than sort of greeny, muddy sort of looking water. But anyway guys, yeah, get out with your camera if you can. Enjoy this weather. We've got another week of lovely weather coming, in the south of the UK anyway, so it's going to be hot, so get up earlier, get out with the cameras, and stay out of that heat if you can, because I think it's going to be up to 30 degrees Celsius, which I bet some people have just laughed, from hotter places around the world, but that's quite hot for the UK. So this week's going to be a bit of a hot one, and I'll still be out with the camera. I've got a couple of things coming, so look out for the next videos. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and the little notification bell, and I've got a few new things coming as well, so a bit of excitement to be broadcasting soon. So anyway, I shall see you soon.